This broadcast is the property of Codependents Anonymous. Reproduction without written permission from Codependents Anonymous is not permitted.
So,
Sorry, Terry, I forgot to start the recording.
Okay.
My apologies.
It's okay. We took a look at the patterns of recovery that had been posted on the website in, I think, 2010. And it took a couple of years for our committee to be ready to actually work on that project. It was something that was brought to the CoDA CSC by the Texas voting entity. And basically what we did was we took a look at it and made some changes in some of the wording of the recovery patterns. And we also added a version of recovery patterns in we statements. So you can use them in your meeting as I statements or as we statements. The previously posted 2010 version is still on the website, so you'd have a choice of either one. The new one has not been published on the website yet, but hopefully it will within the next couple weeks. And with that, I will pass, and I don't, if people have stuff they want to ask about, feel free, but I would really encourage other committee members to speak or to answer any questions if they choose to.
Thank you.
Because I'm just the chair of the committee. I don't know everything. like to, but I do not.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, the Literature Committee, all of the members of the Literature Committee for coming to the meeting today. So if you want to introduce yourselves, and then we'll open up for questions to the Literature Committee. Please. And I do see Kelly with a hand up. Yes, Kelly, welcome.
Hi, Kelly. I am also a committee member, but with a different committee, and that's the CoDA Teen. And there was a lot of CoDA Teen literature that was also presented at CSC and voted on. It's also in the process of being published, being edited, and for any minor mistakes, it was voted on and unanimously, not unanimously, but just about unanimously accepted. And so I just want people to be aware that there is CoDA Teen literature that will be coming out in the very near future, along with a web page that we're trying to get connected to the coda.org.
Thank you, Judy. Any other members of the Literature Committee that would like to introduce themselves today?
I'm Sarah, codependent, and I am on, I forgot to raise my hand. I'm on the CoDA Literature Committee, and I worked on both the anniversary edition, 4th edition of the workbook. It was a lot of fun, and we added a lot, and I just want to point out there was a member, I don't know if I couldn't mention her name, but she's been in CoDA for a long time and shared a lot of what she shared with her sponsees. And we added things like that to the workbook. So very valuable additions to this. I always call them blurbs, but the writing about the steps and traditions. We also changed the questions so that there weren't 3 questions in one, so it's easier to answer. And just other things that we think improve the workbook. And being as it's a special anniversary of when the workbook first came out, we thought it was a good time. I also worked on the recovery patterns, the new I and we version. And like Terry said, that was brought up a few years ago, maybe 2 or 3, from the Texas voting entity. And there were lots of requests for a we version and an I version separate. So yeah, I think we did good work this year and hope everybody enjoys it and gets a lot of recovery from the new literature. And I also want to applaud CoDA Teen for all the work they did and their literature, which we did look at in depth, and it's great stuff. Oh, I just can't hold it back. We're starting a CoDA Teen meeting in Tucson, Arizona on October 2nd, if all goes well. So thanks to CoDA Teen, and thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Sarah. And then I have Karen, who'll be followed by Abby. Welcome, Karen.
Hey, how are you? Okay. So yeah, lots of work on the CoDA Literature Committee this year. I was, I guess, the lead on the subcommittee for the reparenting pamphlet and worked on that. I worked on the I and we sentences for the recovery patterns, so that there's I on the left side and I on the right side, and then we on the left side and we in the right side. And what's really interesting when I was working on these is like they hit different. So it was like about, I being about individual recovery, and the we statements hit like we're recovering as a group. So anyway, if you read through them, they kind of hit differently. I also helped with editing the 40 questions out of Northern California because they were posted on the web for a year. So hopefully they'll be coming onto the website soon in the next 2 or 3 weeks, because what passed at conference was very different than what passed the year before. There's also something else coming on, and we realized as we were looking at what needed to go onto the website, there's a CoDA conference endorsed literature is vital that passed in 2022. And we're now just really making sure it gets on the website or formatted or something. So we're working on all that. And if there's time left over in the meeting, we could read the Reparenting Our Inner Child pamphlet. So I'll throw that out there. We could also read through the I sentences and the we sentences of the recovery patterns. So with that, I pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And yes, if there's time, and I can post those draft versions on in the screen. Should we get to that, Abby? Welcome.
Yes, hello. I'm Abby, also a member of the CoDA Literature Committee, and I'm not the chair of any of the literature pieces that came out this year, but I have been active on helping with all of them. But the one that I have been mostly active on is the Growing Up in CoDA, which started way back. It started in 2019 as, just kind of formulating everything together. Well, it originally was way before then, but when we all got together was first in 2019 with many people working on different parts of them and different chapters. And then we've all worked on them together as we've gone through each chapter separately. And that one also does have a section on reparenting. But the reason that this was started was there was such a short part in the main basic text, Codependence Anonymous, talking about your childhood and, growing up in CoDA, where you got your codependency from. It starts with your childhood. So we kind of we did expand on that into a full-length book with questions and answers, where you can work each chapter individually at the end of each chapter. And there's also stories at the back from people who have their stories from their childhood and growing up in CoDA. So there's a few of those. And we had to get an editor come in and kind of formulate a lot of this stuff so it would make sense and flow, and there's tables of contents and
No way.
Hello? Who's there?
Sorry about that.
Sorry. And I was trying to pull up something from, and I had it back here, if I can find it. Yeah, from Why the Book. It was, let's see. This book has an introduction with our spiritual dilemma, rediscovering ourselves. So that came out of the Codependence Anonymous. So, oh golly, and I don't know if that's the right one, but it's been formatted so you can go to each chapter, but it's better to work each one from the beginning with the introduction and why the book is started and the dedication. And it's been a labor of love, I'll tell you that. We've been on it for years, and I think it was in the delegate package to look over. And as soon as it gets out there from CORE, it'll be a great piece. A lot of people have been asking for it. And I think that's all I have to say on that one. And the committee's great. I just want to plug the committee. We're a great group, and we meet regularly, and we all work as a group conscience. It's not one person audit or authoring any of these. So it's all work together for each piece of literature that we work on. And I think I'll pass for that.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Abby. Thank you. And yes, and please welcome the members from the Literature Committee and being willing to come here today and speak about this new CoDA literature that was presented at this year's CSC. I do see your hand up, James. And welcome also to Karen from the CoDA Team Committee, and for bringing the information about that today. I want to get to being able to open the meeting for questions. Please raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Yes, James.
David, I had 3 minutes written. If you want me to present it now.
Well, okay, sure.
Okay.
Welcome, James.
It kind of puts it together. And I'm really humbled to be here with the Literature Committee because their words have changed my life. And sometimes in my recovery, things arrive on time and exactly when I need them. That is how I felt when I read the Literature Committee's offerings for this year. When I used the old green workbook, I felt sometimes something was not complete or missing. I wondered, where did this disease come from? Why me? Why did I have it? When did it begin? In CoDA, we talk about inner child, and I have gone through many CoDA workshops on inner child. I never really put it together. I never really understood it. Then I saw the new reparenting pamphlet while I was in a step study group, which led me to the new CoDA book, Growing Up in CoDA. This book helped me understand where it all began and where my codependency took root, the point where my recovery had to start. I had to go back and heal the problem if I ever wanted my recovery to blossom. I'm learning the importance of my relationship with my inner child. Question 10 in the new 40 questions, which was approved this year, asked me to write a letter from my inner child to my adult self. This took work, time, and careful consideration. But in the end, I found him. Then I had to reparent him, which is where the new pamphlet was so helpful initially. The information I had was great, but with the new literature, I found the little guy and I made him part of my life. It brings me joy and a little sorrow when I realize how long he was buried for all those years. Now I am literally growing up in CoDA. The CoDA welcome says we are growing at our own pace as we remain open to God's will for us. I feel this collective growth in the production of not just these three pieces, but all the literature approved at this year's CoDA Service Conference, CoDA Teen, the fourth edition of the Green Workbook, and even the new patterns. I do service in H&I, and when I read these letters that come through the mail, it gives me hope that these wonderful words we are spreading throughout the world are also changing the lives of incarcerated people in prisons and jails, as well as homeless shelters and women's shelters in a positive and meaningful way. Welcome to all the members of the Literature Committee, and thank you so much for coming. And I'll pass.
Thank you, James. The members of the Literature Committee, if there's stuff you want to share on the screen, let me know, and I will make you co-host so you can do that. Then I'm going to put a question out hold on a minute. I see your hand up, John. If anyone at the meeting, anyone here has had a chance to read some of this literature that is available in a draft form, was available during the CoDA Service Conference, and some of it is available under the membership information at coda.org. So if you want to share your experience of reading this literature, and if you have questions about some of the literature that has been mentioned, please raise your hand. Hi, John. Welcome.
Okay. Took me a while to unmute. I've been on the Literature Committee just for a year or so, and I want to give a shout out really to the committee. This is the most hardworking, intelligent committee I have worked on in CoDA, and I really have a lot of appreciation for them. But I want to emphasize the fact that as we all, the CoDA literature and the committee is in the process of recovery, and so all of our literature is not final. It awaits the input, your input, members of the fellowship, because the group conscience is not just on the committee, but the group conscience of the entire fellowship is what can take whatever we provide and make it greater. So as you read the materials that are approved by conference, then know that there are future conferences in which what you read will become even better through your input and participation in our efforts. And I'm going to add that we are looking for submissions for meditations. We are looking for submissions for stories to use for an updated version of the Codependence Anonymous book. So if you have an urge to write, write things out and submit it to lit@coda.org, because what we can offer comes only from our individual experience and growth. And that's very narrow by comparison with the experience and growth and wisdom that resides in the fellowship as a whole. So please share that with us so that we can communicate it to all.
Thank you, John. And then Abby, let me get you unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you, John. And you did mention a lot of good things. And we are in the process of updating our webpage on CoDA.org website. And it will have those requests for your submissions for the new meditation book, which of course there's 365 days a year, so we'll need lots of them. And your stories, and it will just be a collection of CoDA stories. And that will be on the Literature Committee main page. There is one up there now, but we're in the process of updating that information because it needs to be updated. And anyone here can submit any of your stories or your meditations, and that is to literature@coda.org. And as John mentioned, it is by the fellowship that the literature is provided, and it's not a single author, so we are all in the group conscience of the whole fellowship. I just wanted to make that mention, and thank you again.
Harry, you're muted.
Oh, I think I unmuted myself. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Well, at the risk of taking up all the time by literature committee people, I'm really glad that Abby mentioned the daily meditation book, because I think we have maybe 100 submissions or something along there, maybe somewhere between 80 and 100. And the quality of the submissions is just, I gotta say, it's just kind of blowing me away. I'm really excited about this. I haven't written one yet, but I need to, that's on my list. But I just wanted to mention that because I know that for a lot of us, I'll speak for myself, for me, having something to read every day it's really helpful to keep me on track. And what's great about this particular new book is the pieces, the meditations are probably a little bit longer than the ones that, not all, but they're most of them are a little bit longer than the ones that are in this moment. And they each have a quote from a piece of literature, or it could be a step or a promise or something like that, that's just been really meaningful for the writer. And then they'll tell us why it's really meaningful for them. And I just feel like it's a very rich group of writings so far. So I'm excited about it. And with that, I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Because I was in Houston and participated in CoDA Service Conference this year, I was able to see and read some of this, read pieces of this material. And I do have some questions for the Literature Committee. But before I go further, I did put the email address for the Literature Committee in the chat. And there is a request for information about CoDA Teen from Juan Pablo. I don't have an email address for CoDA Teen. Do they write to SPO or to let's see, do they write to Spanish Outreach, or do they write to some other web address? Is there an email address for CoDA Teen yet?
In the chat, David.
Is it in the chat now? Great, thank you. And well, first of all, I want to say thank you for the excellent work on the 4th edition. Look forward to of the workbook that will be coming out. I appreciate the fact that you have included prayers for the traditions as well as the steps. And I like the new layout. I find that the step 4 work is much easier to understand and do in the new edition. And so thank you for that. I'm wondering if any information can be added to the inner child. Yes, what do I want to say? Almost, there we go. Growing up in CoDA. If there's room, or is that gone to press, or is there room to add some information into the appendix at the end? And also, will the table of contents for that book indicate what page the stories are on, like it does in the CoDA book? Right now, it just says the stories begin on page 135, but it doesn't show where the story, what pages the stories are on. Those are just some of the questions that have come to my mind. And on that, and then also on the we and I versions of the recovery, patterns of recovery documents, is there plans to do a side-by-side comparison between the current version and the new we and I versions of that, so that it's easier for me to see what has been changed, what is different? And those are the questions that come to my mind. Hi, Callie, welcome.
You're muted, Karen.
I have to unmute people. I've muted everyone. So if you raise your hand, I will unmute you. You have to respond to that. Ask to unmute Kelly. Sorry, Kelly. There you go.
Okay, thank you. I was talking, but I wasn't unmuted. I just was responding to the request for the link for CoDA Teen. So I put that in the chat and I forgot to raise my hand. I apologize.
Great.
Thanks
for doing that. Thanks for doing that. Yeah. So if you have had a chance to look at any of this material, or you have any questions for the literature, or I believe there's someone here from CoDA Teen, and raise your hand and we'll get you unmuted. And if there are no questions and someone from literature would like to talk about either growing up in CoDA or the I or we versions of the patterns of codependence, I can share that on the screen. Yes, John. There you go.
Yeah, I can add the information. The contents may well have more detail once they are printed, because that cannot be done until the layout for the book has been completed, and CORE will be doing that. So the extra detail you're asking for should be forthcoming.
Great. Yeah. I saw in some places that it indicated that to be added or to be determined at a later date. So, but it didn't say that in the contents. That's why I asked the question. Thanks for that answer, John. Abby, I see your hand. Welcome. Need to unmute, Abby.
Unmute. There I am. Okay. So, okay, I just want to make a brief comment on the I and we statements on the in recovery, the patterns of recovery that's going to be on the as a service piece on the CoDA.org website. That as far as the literature committee goes, it is not, the motion did not say that we were going to be doing any kind of comparison piece. It was going to be that they would keep the old one up and that this new one will be up as well. So you can choose which one you want to use. So it's not that we're going to be doing another piece that compares one from the old.
Okay. I might make a list that compares them. Is that all right? And if I do, I will forward it to literature.
That will not be up to me.
Well, all right.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Ed, any other questions or comments or feedback for people here and from literature, or just that you would like to share if you've had a chance to look at any of this material? Yes, James.
David, I sat down in the doctor's office a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking at my phone, and the forward of the workbook came up, and that is really great. If somebody from literature wants to read that, it tells the history of the workbook and everything. It's really great.
Oh, is that in the workbook itself? Where is that?
Yes, it's in the workbook.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I can bring this material to the screen if I know what it is that you want to talk about.
Someone who wrote it might read it better than I would.
Yeah. So, Terry, I think you had offered to read from the reparenting brochure, which I can share on the screen if you like. And let me.
Well, yeah, I think James was asking about the foreword to the workbook.
Yeah,
and I'm happy to read that. It was actually Karen T. who talked about reading the patterns and characteristics.
Okay. Do you want me to share the foreword from the workbook on the screen?
Sure, if you can. Yeah.
Yeah, just give me a minute, and I think I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. I've got the workbook. Let me get to the foreword. Is that what begins, dear CoDA members?
Yes.
I think so.
All right. Tell me.
I can't remember.
All right.
Sorry.
Good. Tell me if this is correct or if I need to.
Sure. Well, actually, James might, yeah. Oh, dear CoDA members. Yeah. Okay. Dear CoDA members, guided by our higher power, the 4th edition of the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions workbook is the result of a long and rewarding group conscience process. The wisdom in the workbook has evolved over many years. This project started when a dedicated group of 9 members of Codependence Anonymous recognized the need for a workbook that reflected, that reflected CoDA's perspective on the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. The group met weekly from 1997 to 2001. Their manuscripts were sent 1 step and 1 tradition at a time to the National Literature Committee, NLC, now known as the CoDA Literature Committee, CLC. Because the fellowship was so eager for a workbook, the content was originally published and distributed in 4 sections, each containing 3 steps and 3 traditions. The National Service Conference, now known as the now known as the CoDA Service Conference, endorsed each section separately. The 1998 to 2020, oh my gosh, sorry, can't read. The 1998 to 2002. Finally, in 2003, all 4 sections were put together into the first consolidated edition of the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions workbook of Codependence Anonymous. We welcome newcomers and those who have been in recovery a while to join each other in using and benefiting from the wisdom and guidance in this 4th consolidated edition of the CoDA workbook. There are many ways to use the workbook, one-on-one, with a sponsor or other CoDA member, in CoDA meetings, and in dedicated CoDA Step and Traditions study groups, meeting face-to-face, online, or using other forms of media. This workbook is a living document. Since its original printing, members have continued to grow in understanding of the disease of codependency and in our journey of recovery in CoDA. While the essence of the original transcript remains, multiple changes have been made with the intention of reflecting this new understanding and reaching the codependent who still suffers. We are full of gratitude and have had the opportunity to share the deeper awareness, expanded knowledge, and spiritual growth we have gained in updating this workbook. We hope you enjoyed the journey, the CoDA Literature Committee.
Thank you. And also, there is someone who has expressed an interest in seeing the reparenting literature. So I'm going to share that on the screen next. And if there is someone from literature, or James, if you would like to read that. 1 second, I need to do this. All right, Karen, you have your hand up. Are you going to, is that because you're willing to read the reparenting literature?
Yeah, I could read part. James could read part.
Great.
Other people can read part. I could do the
Great.
first part.
I'm going to share it on the screen.
All right. So I can read the introduction, and then somebody can pick up after that, if that makes sense. Okay. Here we go. Actually, this is really exciting. It's the first time, like, outside of the committee, you know, other than CSC, it actually gets read. Wow. Okay. Reparenting our inner child. Introduction. I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Many members of Codependence Anonymous grew up with caregivers who modeled unhealthy parenting. Some of us had permissive parents and caregivers who set no limits or boundaries while we were growing up. Some of us had authoritarian parents, and some of us had siblings or other caregivers who demanded obedience no matter what the situation. Denial, rage, guilt, shame, blame, and control are some common elements that may be found in the family dynamic. As a result, many of us developed irrational fears, insecurity, rebellious behavior, unhealthy attachments, self-defeating behaviors, difficulty with authority figures, low self-esteem, poor communication skills, difficulty setting and maintaining boundaries, guilt and shame. Reparenting is the process of parenting the child within who did not get what they needed in childhood. Reparenting ourselves honors and nurtures our inner child. We learn to take responsibility for our own emotions and provide for our own needs. And I can pass, and somebody else can continue.
David, I'll try a little bit. I made it bigger. So what is the child within, or inner child? The child within is the sum of all our childhood experiences, memories, perceptions, beliefs, and emotions. It is the part of us that experienced both the positive and the negative aspects of our childhood. 2, retains the unexpressed feelings generated by our childhood experiences. And 3, reacts strongly, either passively or rebelliously, to the difficult situations we encounter in our adult lives. Curiously, or am I on the right place? Curiously, or, okay, the child within, or our inner child, is that part of us that carries the innocence of life, curiosity of nature, and the spirit who we are. Our inner child can be delightful, spontaneous, creative, playful, joyful, mischievous, tender, and loving. It may also appear as the hurt, embittered, shamed, scared, or angry part of us. Codependence Anonymous, 3rd edition. The following suggestions may help us discover our inner child. Reconnecting with our inner child through play, which can include coloring, riding bikes, swimming, playing with toys, reading children's books, jumping rope, puzzles, Lego, checking in with how we feel with a feeling wheel or chart. If you've ever seen that. Crafting glitter hookups, book rugs, sewing, woodworking, knitting, gardening, exploring nature, hiking, biking, swimming, beach play, camping, writing with our non-dominant hand, music, dance, creative play, swinging on a swing, blowing bubbles, looking at pictures of ourselves as children, cooking our favorite childhood meals, listening to music from our childhood, watching favorite movies or videos from our childhood. Find our inner parent. Discovering the inner parent is a journey in itself. Our inner parent can reparent the internalized messages and attitudes we received from our parents, siblings, caregivers, guardians, teachers, or any adult who was a significant involved in our lives as we grew up. As we recover, we become aware of the dialogue between our inner parent and our inner child. It is important when doing this work that our inner parent voice comes from a place of love, acceptance, and tenderness. Are there two kinds of inner parents? It has been said that coming into CoDA, we come in at the emotional age when the codependent behavior started. For some of us, codependent behavior started at an early age when we began to parent ourselves. We are able to free our biological parents or caretakers from guilt, blame for our current actions and behaviors. In recovery, we take responsibility and start the process of reparenting ourselves, replacing the harmful inner voice with one that fosters safety, bonding, and wisdom. We become whole. Some members hear the positive messages from their inner parent, and some hear conflicting messages. The loving inner parent. I'll just read through that.
I'm going to pause you.
Okay.
If I may, James, because
Yes.
I have some questions and also some hands up. So let me get to that. Would someone, yes, the question of when will this literature be available at CoDA was discussed with somebody. We have a few minutes. We have some time. We have about 10 minutes in the meeting. And if someone would like to repeat when this literature might be available at CoDA.org. And then there is a hand up from, I don't have a name, from a phone number. If you would like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
I think I had my hand up to read. This is Kelly.
Okay, thank you, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Good, all right. And then there is a phone number ending in 5341 that has a hand up.
I was just volunteering to also read. So I'll pass.
Kaga. Okay. Hi, Kaga. Great. Thanks for being here. And you can unmute yourself. I have made it possible. You don't have to get permission. Just unmute yourself if you would like to read. Terry, would you like to repeat approximately when this new literature will be linked at CoDA.org?
Sure. So the pieces of literature that will be posted on the website are this brochure. It needs a couple of little things to be changed. Like it was pointed out at CSC that the word Lego is a brand name, so we're going to take that out. But, these are these are the things that we have to. These are the things we have to do. But it should be in a couple weeks. And same thing with the patterns of recovery. Those should be up, but the Growing Up in CoDA book still needs to be retypeset and designed. So I'm hoping it'll be out by December. Good thing there's nobody on core here to contradict me. No, I just don't. I really don't know exactly. And and probably I'm hoping that the workbook will be out by December, but I'm not holding my breath. It's whenever core decides they have run out of the older version. So
And
I hope that answers the question.
And the we and I versions of the recovery patterns?
Yeah, that should be within a couple weeks.
Okay. I did look up the use of the copyrighted or trademarked word Lego. Although I'm glad to hear you're taking it out, because I think that's kind of in that area of non-CoDA endorsed material.
Exactly. But it's one of those words like Kleenex. You don't really think about it as a brand name, but it is. Right. So
well, if my understanding is, according to the Lego literature, you can use it if you capitalize all the letters and put a R or trademark sign after it. But I'm glad to hear, just replace it with blocks. The kind you put together, not the kind that get in the way of my recovery. I hope that answers those questions for you. And let me see if I can't see the screen too well. I can't see the screen at all, because when I'm sharing in this version of the Zoom account, when I share the screen, my Brady boxes just go away. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see a little better the hands that are raised. And you still have a hand raised, Kaga. So did you want to say something?
No, just thanks for the fellowship forum, and thanks everyone that has come. And if we continue reading the brochure, I'm all in. Thank you.
All right. I look forward to the brochures and this material that I've been able to read being available generally at CoDA.org. That would be great to be able to link to it and download it and print it. I've read the Reparenting Our Inner Child brochure and appreciate that. I've also started reading the Growing Up in CoDA book, and that really is something I want to sit down with. So looking forward to that being available. Yes, Kelly, welcome.
I had raised my hand to read, but if we're not going to continue reading, I just want to express my deepest gratitude to the Literature Committee in developing this work on inner child. It was greatly needed in CoDA, and I'm so glad to see it come to fruition. It's near and dear to my heart, and I think it's also going to help trickle down into CoDA Teen at some point. I would love to see it, work its way through there. And as a fellow person who has worked on literature, I know the hard work that goes into this, and I commend you on writing a book and a new workbook. Oh my goodness. a lot of work. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. We're getting close to the closing time, and this has been very well attended and quite successful. We didn't get a chance to touch on the CoDA Teen literature. I'm going to ask for a group conscience. Would people like to have another meeting where we talk about the new literature? We can make space for the CoDA Teen literature, which is equally important. So a show of hands, or whatever. Let me know if you are interested in doing this again and with the CoDA. Yes, I'm seeing some hands. Great. So we will schedule an event and get together and invite people from CoDA Teen to come and share their experience, strength, and hope on the new literature that was presented at CSC CoDA Service Conference in Houston this year. Thank you for your response to that. Before we close, are there any last questions or comments from people? And we'll
I have a
stick
question.
around. Oh, go ahead, Kaga.
And I'm just wondering, just quickly, would there be any issues with actually having a book study using the draft copy of the Growing Up in CoDA, with, and also informing, the meeting that this is up on the website if they have changes or things? Is there any objections from Literature Committee or anybody about using this literature that we can access from the webpage for a meeting, especially the Repairing Our Inner Child, the pamphlet, Reparenting Our Inner Child? Thank you.
Yes, Karen. Welcome.
Yeah, all this stuff passed CSC. So all in motions, meaning it passed a motion, you can go for it. Do the best you can. And we are working with the web people to work on getting this, the literature, like the reparenting pamphlet, the I and we sentences, onto the website. And hopefully in a couple of weeks it'll be more formally there, but it's kind of there now in motion format. I pass.
And Terry, welcome. I see your hand.
I would just like to add, yes, I would say, the stuff that's going to be service items on the web, wonderful. But, CoDA's bottom line is determined to I think it's, I might be wrong about this, but it's somewhere around 20 to 80% of the money that keeps CoDA world going. It comes from literature sales. So I would prefer, that's my opinion, that people wait until you can actually buy the book to use it. But yes, absolutely. I think it's wonderful. I plan on, hopefully finding some people to go through that book with in a book group, a CoDA book group, or even using it in the meeting. It might be a little much for newcomers, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to soft we've had some comments from people that are really new in the program that they hated Growing Up in CoDA because it was really harsh. But I haven't seen that from people that have been in CoDA for quite a while. So it may be difficult for new people, just FYI, that's all. But the other thing is it's the money thing, we need the income from selling the books.
As was pointed out at CoDA Service Conference this year, slightly over 72% of the money that is in the CoDA treasury or the operational finances for CoDA comes from core publications. So thank you for pointing that out. I would ask that if you do have access to the Growing Up in CoDA, that you not print or distribute copies publicly. Wait for it to be published. If you want to start a study program and read from it yourself and share it on screen, but not make it available for download, I think that would be a better compromise. As it is, I agree that it is already endorsed CoDA material, so we should be able to use it. But be mindful of that. We don't want to be burning the coach up to keep the train running. So buy the books and encourage other people to buy the books, even as we share them online. in this new digital age. Any last minute comments from literature before I begin wrapping up this meeting? And we will be scheduling another meeting with the new CoDA literature just as soon as we can. All right, James, you have any parting comments?
I'd just like to thank Literature Committee for showing up today. And like you said, it was the most well-attended fellowship forum we've had this year.
Yeah. Very well attended. Thanks for your interest, everyone. Thank you for your interest in the fellowship forum and in the new CoDA literature. Stay tuned. Sign up for the tickler so that you know when our next meeting is and get a reminder for that. The links for that are in the chat. You can save the chat box clicking the three dots at the bottom of the chat box, and save the chat to your computer so you can review those links at your convenience. Next month's fellowship forum will be September 30th. There are 5 Saturdays in September, it looks like. So, and of course, our times are noon Pacific time, and Arizona daylight does not use daylight time. And then Mountain time would be 1, Central 2, Eastern 3, UK 8 p.m. and Australia 5 a.m. Topic for next month will be announced in the reminder. And if you have a topic you would like brought up at the fellowship forum, remember the fellowship forum is a place where we get to share not only our experience, strength, and hope in recovery, but also raise questions and talk about the CoDA program and CoDA material as well. So thank you all for being here. We'll close the meeting with the CoDA closing prayer, which I'll share on the screen. I hope that's it. And we thank our higher power for all that we have received from this meeting. As we close, may we take with us the wisdom, love, acceptance, and hope of recovery. Thank you all for being here. And now that the